What up, y'all? It's the homie Dame, and I haven't done a music-related video in a minute, so here it is. A music-related video. Specifically about something I'm sure we're all very fond of. Anime OSTs. The soundtracks that punctuate our favorite moments, all the way from those hype battle shonen fights to those tear-jerking romantic moments. To me, this is the real juicy aspect of anime music, because I know anime openings are the more prolific and iconic side, but to me, it's way more important for a show to have a good OST. Although, I guess the opening is part of the OST, but you know what I mean. So in this video, I'm gonna be doing my good old professional musician thing by breaking down some of the greatest anime OSTs of all time. Except, that's kind of a lie, sorry. I don't know what title I'll be using, but it'll probably be some clickbait like, these are the best anime OSTs of all time, or like top 10 anime OSTs or something, but really they're just gonna be a few of my personal favorite tracks that I feel like talking about. Sorry, I know, but hey, if other YouTubers can shamelessly clickbait, I should be able to do it too, right? The first OST song I want to talk about is from Puella Magi Madoka Magica. Now, I personally think that this show has one of the best OSTs of all time in general, but if I had to pick a standout track, it'd definitely be Sayaka's theme, Decretum. Oh wow, okay, wait. How much of these songs can I actually play on here without getting copyrighted? Oh wow, yeah. I didn't really think this video through, huh? So, Decretum is a haunting ballad that sounds almost like something from a fantasy RuneScape-inspired dream. It's written to be played in that quick allegro tempo, but it doesn't really feel like it. It feels more droning and somber, and you know, that's appropriate because that 3/4 tempo and also the context that the song is played in within the show makes it almost feel like a funeral march. Now, I'm not gonna spoil any of the shows that I mentioned here, but if you've seen Madoka Magica, you know. And if you haven't seen it, there's basically a scene in the show where this song plays that is so incredibly powerful and hard-hitting that it legit makes me tear up a little bit. And these days, the only thing that can make me cry is when my daughter doesn't call home from college. Okay, so let's break this down a bit more, right? The main instruments that you'll hear in this track are like some type of acoustic guitar, an orchestral string section, and low-key, the best part, which is those shakers slash tambourines, like, ooh, man. The song is written in the key of, wait, let me think. B flat major, I think, maybe. Again, it gives it that somber and sentimental vibe that'll really tug at your little heartstrings when you hear it in the show. So the song is structured around this main motif that we hear repeated with some light variation throughout. We hear this motif early on. It starts out with it here, and it's played by some sort of like chime or bell, and it's supported by those guitars that I mentioned. A little bit later, the motif repeats, but this time it's played by the string section, and we get a bit more percussion in there too. It's really a well done combination of the instruments there. Shout out to Yuki Kajiura for the composition there. A little bit further into the song, we get a nice key change of sorts where it adds A flat into the mix, changing the key to E flat major. Easily one of my favorite moments in this whole joint because of how emotional the strings sound as they hit those eighth notes leading into the key change. It's so good, it's so satisfying. It's one of those moments that can elicit almost a physical response when you're listening to it. Like, it's the kind of musical moment that if you played it in a church service, half the congregation would convert on the spot. Once we get past that, we get an amazing breakdown slash bridge section where a woodwind instrument is introduced, and oh man, I just gushed about that last part, but this might actually be my personal favorite moment. It plays this beautiful melody over the same chord progression that the main motif uses. Except this time, it changes the feel to be much more sweeping and epic, even though I hate saying the word epic. So that's basically the whole track, and the reason it's one of my favorites is of course because of its exquisite musical composition as well as how it hits in the anime. Sayaka is such a tragic character in Madoka Magica, and this being her theme music is so perfect because well, okay, how do I explain this? Music has movement, right? Not to get all Confucius, but it's like flowing water where the movement of music almost has a physical form that you can visualize in your head in the form of waves almost, you know, ups, downs, slow parts, fast parts, that sort of thing. And obviously, film has movement as well, or in this case, animation. Within a single scene, you can have story beats that dictate the flow of emotion or the flow of action. And when you pair the two together and they complement each other well, It's pretty cool. On to the next one. This is from Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood's OST, and it's called Trisha's Lullaby. I guess the theme of this video is crippling depression, because this has got some similar energy to Decretum. If you've seen Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, you're probably very familiar with this OST, as it's one of the most recognizable motifs from the show, along with its variants like Lullaby or Resemble. Just like Decretum, it's another slow and haunting ballad written to be played in that 3/4 time signature. Oh, and I know I'd be spewing out random musical terminology without thinking sometimes, but I guess here it's important to explain if you're not familiar, which I know a lot of my audience is. Time signature basically just tells you how to keep the beat when you're playing a song. The bottom number tells you the value of the note that's keeping beat, and the number on top tells you how many of those notes are in a measure. So in this case, each measure would have 3 quarter notes per measure. 3/4, right? TLDR, it's a fancy way of saying to count the beat like this. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now, why do you need to know that here? It's because this kind of time signature often elicits a specific type of feeling. A lot of people will associate it with the waltz, you know, fancy rich people on a ballroom floor prancing around. And if you listen to Trisha's Lullaby, it almost does seem like the kind of serene and graceful theme that you'd hear at like Buckingham Palace or something. Which is why it's so perfect in Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, because they use this track for a bunch of depressing ass scenes. It's the good old juxtaposition. You have some nightmare horrifying scene playing, and then you slap a completely contrasting song on top and you get magic. Again, my goal in this video isn't to spoil anyone on shows they haven't seen, but if you've watched Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, you know a very specific scene I'm talking about where this song is played. But anyway, let's break down the song musically a little bit. The main musical elements of the song are pretty simple, it's basically all a vocal choir and a string orchestra. It starts off a little quiet and understated, but then it builds and swells as the song flows. Pretty fitting for a lullaby, yeah? It has a push and pull to it that's almost tangible, almost like it's physically rocking you to sleep. But hey, you might be thinking that this is a simplistic ass track, not too much going on musically, but listen, not everything has to be 10 layers of production or complicated prog rock song structure, whatever. Sometimes you just need a well-written melody. To me, a song like Trisha's Lullaby only needs one moment to really sell itself, and that's the moment where the melody switches right here. The swell of the orchestra, the high falsetto of the choir, the switch into the major sounding chord progression. It's a climax that's designed to bring on the waterworks, and I'd say it's pretty successful at that. Now we'll talk about one more track in this video, and that is Kishi-o no Hokori from Fate's Stay Night. I know it's a surprise, right? It's not often people bring up the Studio Dean Fate's Stay Night, and especially not in a positive light, but hey, here we are. This track is used as, and kind of is unofficially, Saber's theme throughout the show. If y'all don't know about Fate, Saber is supposed to be King Arthur but turned into a little anime girl. Why, you ask? Come on, you know why. For scenes like this, of course.
人の趣味を笑うのは良くないことです、シロ。それにライオンも悪くありません。
Anyway, this is about as straightforward and on the nose as it gets as far as theming for an OST soundtrack. It sounds regal and like something you'd hear at the Renaissance Fair, but it also captures the grace and elegance of Saber herself. Truly a theme fit for a king, am I right? And of course, just like the other two tracks, this one has that 3/4 time signature, right? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now, let's look at this musically, right? Again, it shares many similar elements to the other songs, but Kishi-o no Hokori is unique in that it has a solo violin playing the lead melody. If I was a pretentious video essay maker, I'd say that this represents the solitude that Saber feels as someone who is burdened with the role of king. But I do make pretentious video essays, so yeah, I am saying that. The melody in this song is such a beautiful one. It's sentimental. You can hear that violin hitting triplets and grace notes that feel like they're almost dancing over the rest of the instrumental backdrop. And again, just like the other two songs, we have a shift into a more major sounding key signature with all those accidental notes thrown in. Eventually, the melody repeats itself, this time backed with a fuller instrumental section, including some drums, and then the song ends off on a long outro supported by that full orchestral string section again. So now you might be thinking, Damian, you just showed us 3 songs that are basically the same. And hey, you know, that's true, right? All 3 songs featured in this video are sorrowful in some way, or at least used in some kind of sad context in their respective anime. All of them feature a heavy string section, they're all around the same tempo, and all of the same time signature, and I think some of them are even in the same key too, but don't quote me, I always be mixing my key signatures up. But the reason I bring up each track individually is to show how all of these elements can be used to express different kinds of sadness. Again, without spoiling, Decretum gives the feeling of despair, Trisha's Lullaby gives the feeling of being powerless, and Kishio no Hokuri gives the feeling of loneliness. Or at least that's how I interpret them. So yeah, 3 of some of my favorite OST tracks of all time using similar musical techniques to express different shades of the same emotion of sadness. I don't know, it's all really interesting stuff if you're a huge loser like me who likes spending time looking into these things. But hey, that's enough rambling for one video. I just cobbled this together as a bonus video since I took forever to make that My Hero Academia video, but I mean, it was pretty fun, so I might do this again, breaking down some other OSTs for y'all. Of course, I'll be using that same clickbait strategy, so look out for that. But yeah, otherwise leave a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe for more content, and comment below if you enjoy any OST tracks similar to the ones here. But otherwise, that's the video. Peace.